Hi, this is Parker, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about Liturgie de Cristal by Olivier Messiaen. I'm going to start by talking about the history behind this piece, then I'll discuss how I analyzed it, and I'll end this video with a recording of this piece. So let's get into the history. Olivier Messiaen was a French composer who lived during the 20th century. In 1940, France was invaded by Germany, and Messiaen was captured and taken as a prisoner of war to a POW camp in Germany. While he was in this camp, he began composing a piece that would become the Quatuor pour la fin du temps. Liturgie de Cristal is the first movement of this quartet. He composed it for himself and 3 other musicians present in the POW camp, which is why the instrumentation of this piece is somewhat odd. Messiaen and these other musicians were the only professional musicians in the camp. Messiaen could play piano, and the other musicians included a clarinetist, a violinist, and a cellist. Since these were the only performers Messiaen had access to, he was forced to write the quatuor for an unusual instrumentation. Messiaen's music was often influenced by religion, as he was a devout Catholic. Messiaen based the Quatuor pour la fin du temps on the Book of Revelation. You can even see the influence of religion in the name of this piece, in the word liturgy. We'll see how religion influenced his musical choices later when I analyze this piece. Another major influence in Messiaen's music was birdsong. In addition to being a composer and an organist, he was also an ornithologist. He was fascinated by birdsong and imitated it in many of his works. This is one of them, and we'll see how he does it in just a couple minutes. So now I want to get into the analysis. The instrumentation of this piece can be sort of divided into 2 groups. You have the cello and the piano grouped together, and then the violin and the clarinet grouped together. The cello and piano parts were both composed using cyclic material, while the violin and clarinet parts use free material. Cyclic material is an idea that is presented in a piece of music and then repeated exactly over and over again until the composer decides to stop it. In the cello and piano parts, the cyclic material is repeated until the end of the piece. He uses different cycles for the rhythm and the harmony of the piano and cello parts. In the piano, the harmonic cycle is 29 notes long, while the rhythmic cycle is only 13 beats long. You can see here that the 2 cycles don't line up, which creates interesting variations on the original material as the piece develops. In the cello part, the harmonic cycle is 5 notes long, and the rhythmic cycle is 16.5 beats long. However, unlike the piano part, the cycles in the cello part do line up. The rhythmic cycle is exactly 3 times as long as the harmonic cycle. An interesting thing to note is that this piece ends in the middle of all 4 cycles. Neither the harmonic nor the rhythmic cycle for the piano or cello part gets to finish. The effect of this is similar to a fade-out on a modern record. This is where we can see the influence of religion on Messiaen's music. The reason he ends the piece this way is he wants to show that the music is coming from heaven rather than earth, and that the music is eternal and keeps on going even after the performers have walked off stage. Let's move on to the violin and clarinet parts now. This is where the influence of birdsong on Messiaen's music comes in. The violin part imitates a nightingale, while the clarinet part imitates the sound of a blackbird. You could analyze these lines as free material, but I noticed that they shared a lot of similarities with the cyclic material in the cello and piano parts. For example, every phrase in the clarinet line begins with the same figure or a minor variation of it. You can see here that this first figure starts out with a couple G's, and then an A flat that resolves back down to G and ends with a trill. If you look at the beginning of what I felt like was the next cycle, you can see it has roughly the same shape. begins with repeated G's, has an A flat that resolves back down to G. In here is a little bit of variation, but it still ends with a trill on C. And then the next cycle begins the same way, and so does the cycle after that. And there are multiple other figures that show up multiple times throughout the clarinet part. So I felt like the material wasn't entirely free, it just has a lot of freedom in it. To me, it seemed like the music in the clarinet and violin parts were based on a cyclic structure, but just used a lot of variations. Every cycle was different from all the others. So I noted them as sort of approximate cycles. That's it for the analysis. Now I'm going to play a recording of this piece and scroll through the score as it goes. And I want you to listen for the stuff I talked about in the analysis and see if you can hear the bird songs in the clarinet and violin, and see if you can hear the sort of quasi-cyclic structure in those parts.